The Ku Klux Klan's violence after the Civil War grew so extreme that the government eventually started treating them like armed enemies instead of criminals. And when federal troops moved in, some captured KKK members were shot on the spot because their crimes had crossed a line so dark that normal arrests no longer applied. The KKK came to life very quickly after the Civil War. It wasn't even a year after the fighting stopped. The war ended in April 1865, and by December of the same year, the first Klan group appeared in Pulaski, Tennessee. The South looked like a giant scar. Richmond, Charleston, Atlanta, Columbia, and dozens of smaller towns were burned or badly damaged. Railroads were torn apart. Bridges were blown up. More than 600,000 soldiers from both sides had died, and the men who survived returned home to empty farms, destroyed houses, and no steady income. Many of them had lost family members, land, or savings during the 4 long years of war. Local governments also fell apart. Sheriffs had no staff. Courts were closed. Jails were damaged or abandoned. The Confederacy had its own police and military system, but when it collapsed in 1865, everything disappeared overnight. In some towns, there were only 1 or 2 officials trying to control hundreds of angry people. Crime went up. Looting became common. Many counties had almost no law enforcement at all. Into this unstable world came the new Reconstruction laws created by Congress. These laws pushed Southern states to accept freedom of formerly enslaved people, allow black men to vote, and build new state governments that were loyal to the Union. For many white Southerners, this felt like another defeat. They watched formerly enslaved families attend school, own land, and take part in politics for the first time. By early 1866, freedmen in states like South Carolina, Alabama, and Mississippi were forming churches and community groups. Black men were joining the Union League, a group that helped teach political rights. A lot of white Southerners felt threatened by these changes. Many of them were former Confederate soldiers. They met at night, usually in secret, worried about losing the old social order. These groups started as small gatherings, but they quickly turned into organized patrols. They claimed they were protecting their neighborhoods, but they mainly wanted to stop black people from gaining independence. The KKK took advantage of all this. They offered angry young men a place to belong. By late 1866, the Klan had already grown across Tennessee, especially in Giles County, Maury County, and Marshall County. By 1867, the group spread to Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Arkansas, and North Carolina. The Klan targeted anything that symbolized progress for black families. They burned schools in places like Athens, Alabama. They beat and threatened black teachers in Georgia. They attacked Union veterans who were helping freed black soldiers register to vote. Northern teachers were especially targeted because they helped black children learn to read. In 1867 alone, more than 30 black schools were destroyed across the South. Black churches were burned because they were gathering places for political meetings, and former Union soldiers who settled in the South were harassed, beaten, and sometimes killed. The federal government in Washington began receiving reports of horrifying violence. Letters from Freedmen's Bureau agents described bodies found in rivers, homes burned at night, and entire families disappearing. Some counties reported more than 20 attacks in a single night. The violence spread across the map so fast that governors didn't know where to send help first. Governors like William Brownlow in Tennessee begged for federal troops as early as 1867. He said his state was too unstable to handle everything alone. Other Southern leaders warned that tension was rising quickly and that chaos might return if Washington didn't step in. But the rest of the country was exhausted. The Civil War had taken thousands of lives and cost billions of dollars. Many Americans wanted to focus on rebuilding railroads, cities, and factories in the North. They didn't want another military campaign in the South. This slow response from Washington gave the Klan more time to organize and grow. The longer the government waited, the stronger the Klan became. And once a violent group gains too much confidence, it becomes harder to stop without force. The years between 1867 and 1869 were the most violent period of the early Klan. This wasn't just small groups causing trouble anymore. The Klan was turning into a network that acted almost like a secret army. Their attacks became coordinated. Members rode in large groups, often wearing masks and robes to hide their faces. They carried pistols, knives, ropes, and torches. They didn't just threaten people. They carried out full assaults. In 1868, the violence exploded. States across the South reported thousands of attacks. In Georgia alone, nearly 336 documented beatings and killings took place during that year, and historians believe many more went unrecorded. In counties like Columbia, Gwinnett, and Morgan, black voters were pulled from their homes at night. Some were whipped, others were killed. Black men who tried to vote in the 1868 election were beaten in long lines outside polling places. Arkansas saw entire small towns threatened. In places like Phillips County, white residents loyal to the Union left their homes because they feared they would be murdered. Freedmen's Bureau agents reported mobs riding through black neighborhoods at night, smashing doors and dragging families outside. Alabama was the same. At least 13 counties, including Tuscaloosa, Sumter, and Shelby, faced constant violence. Black churches were burned. Freed black farmers were threatened if they tried to rent land. In some areas, black families stopped going to school or voting because they knew the Klan waited for them. White Southerners who supported black rights also became targets. Judges who enforced Reconstruction laws were beaten or chased out of town. School teachers from the North had their homes ransacked. Mayors who tried to build biracial governments were threatened. Farmers who hired black workers instead of white ones were harassed. In South Carolina, the Klan's violence became deadly. A black legislator named Benjamin Randolph was riding near Abbeville in October 1868 when he was killed by a group of armed men. His death sent fear across the state. Randolph had been one of the few black men elected to office after the war, and his murder was meant to scare black voters from participating in politics. Tennessee, the birthplace of the Klan, was drowning in violence too. Freed black families in Pulaski County were attacked in their homes. Several were killed in 1868. Many families packed their belongings and fled the area. Some walked miles to seek refuge in towns with Union troops. Louisiana saw some of the worst violence. Between 1868 and 1870, more than 1,000 politically motivated murders were recorded. The state's 1868 election was one of the bloodiest in American history. Gangs rode through parishes, beating black voters and killing black officials. In some cases, voting was impossible due to the attacks. Local governments had no control. Sheriffs were outnumbered, judges were scared. In some counties, juries refused to convict anyone connected to the Klan. Even when suspects were arrested, they were often freed within days because witnesses were too terrified to speak. By late 1868, governors across the South begged for help, including William Brownlow of Texas and Robert Scott of South Carolina. They warned that their states looked more like battlefields than peaceful communities. Brownlow wrote that he had never seen violence spread this fast. Finally, the federal government took notice. Congress set up special committees to collect evidence. They interviewed hundreds of victims, including black families, white Republicans, and Union officers. The stories were horrifying. Beatings. Even hardened politicians in Washington admitted the violence was worse than they expected. But investigations alone couldn't stop the Klan. Reports were written, books were printed, speeches were made. But the violence didn't stop. In some counties, the Klan was stronger than the police, stronger than the courts, stronger than the local government itself. By 1870, Congress finally had enough proof that the violence in the South was not just random crimes. The 15th Amendment became law in 1870, and it was supposed to guarantee black men the right to vote. But the moment it passed, Klan attacks jumped. Election days became dangerous. In some towns, armed rioters blocked polling stations. In others, men were dragged out of their homes the night before voting. President Ulysses S. Grant took this seriously. He had seen enough war to know what chaos could do to a country. He believed the South was on the edge of breaking again. Grant told Congress that local governments were either too scared to act or flat out helping the Klan. That pressure led to the Enforcement Act of 1870. It was the first major federal attempt to break Klan power. It allowed federal marshals to arrest anyone who tried to stop someone from voting. It also allowed federal courts to take over cases that local judges refused to handle. This was important because many local courts simply let Klan suspects walk free. The law also gave the Attorney General authority to directly investigate Klan groups. Under this power, federal officers began gathering names, tracking raids, and building cases. More than 300 Klan members were arrested across Mississippi, North Carolina, Alabama, and other states. But arrests didn't guarantee justice. Many suspects were released quickly. Witnesses were scared for their lives and refused to testify. Others were threatened into silence. Without testimony, charges collapsed. The Klan saw these failures as proof that the system still protected them. As violence continued, federal officers met more resistance. Some patrols were shot at while traveling between counties. Officers found bodies in woods and empty fields. The growing danger pushed the government towards something stronger and far more aggressive. The Enforcement Act was only the beginning. In April 1871, Congress passed the Ku Klux Klan Act, the toughest law ever created during Reconstruction. It was written because lawmakers finally understood that ordinary arrests were not enough. The Klan acted like a hidden army, so Congress gave the president tools to fight it like one. The act allowed the president to use federal troops in any county where violence made normal law impossible. It also allowed the suspension of habeas corpus, which meant suspects could be held without being released quickly. This gave investigators time to question them and stop them from intimidating witnesses. President Grant moved quickly. By October 1871, he declared 9 counties in South Carolina to be in open rebellion. These counties had some of the worst Klan activity in the entire country. Troops marched in with full authority to restore order. They were armed, trained, and prepared for resistance. More than 600 suspected Klan members were arrested within 6 weeks. Many surrendered on their own. They knew the U.S. Army was not something they could outrun or scare. Others slipped into neighboring states to avoid capture. But some chose to fight. Some groups attacked federal patrols, hoping to slow them down or scare them off. A few Klan members ambushed soldiers at night, thinking darkness would give them an edge. Instead, these attacks led to quick shootouts. During these clashes, several captured Klan members were shot. South Carolina became the center of the fight. York County alone reported more than 500 beatings, whippings, and murders between 1870 and 1871. The victims were mostly black farmers, local leaders, and church members. White Republicans were also attacked, especially sheriffs and judges who tried to enforce new laws. When federal troops arrived in October 1871, they divided into patrols and moved across towns like Yorkville, Chester, Union, and Rock Hill. They searched hidden paths, barns, and fields. They questioned suspects and seized hidden weapons. But not every group obeyed orders to surrender. Armed Klan bands tried to hold their ground. In York County, one patrol traveling along a quiet rural road was suddenly fired upon. 2 soldiers were hit. The patrol quickly fought back and chased the attackers into the woods. They caught 3 men. One of them fired a final shot while running. Soldiers reacted instantly. He was shot and died on the ground. Another man survived his wounds, only for a day. Spartanburg County saw similar clashes. Soldiers found a group hiding in a farmhouse. When they surrendered the building, one Klan member dashed out with a gun. He raised it, and troops shot him before he could fire. The others surrendered, but one later tried to attack a guard and was killed. These shootings were not planned raids. Soldiers were dealing with armed men who believed they were fighting for control of the South. Every move felt like a life-or-death gamble. Word of these confrontations spread fast. Many Klan members, frightened by the possibility of being shot if they resisted, turned themselves in. This fear broke much of the Klan's organized structure in South Carolina. But the fight was far from over. The violence had already spilled into nearby states like North Carolina. North Carolina's trouble began early. In 1870, the murder of Wyatt Outlaw shocked the state. He was a respected black leader and town commissioner in Graham. The Klan hanged him from a tree near the courthouse as a warning to others. Governor William Holden tried to fight back by using the state militia. He declared Alamance and Caswell counties in a state of rebellion. His militia leader, Colonel George Kirk, arrested around 100 suspects that summer. But white political leaders turned against Holden. They claimed he acted without proper authority, even though the violence was well documented. The state legislature impeached him in 1871, making him the first governor in U.S. history to be removed this way. When federal troops arrived later in 1871 and 1872, they were stepping into a place where the Klan already felt untouchable. Several groups were armed and ready to fight. In Caswell County, a federal patrol was attacked near a river crossing. Soldiers captured 4 men. One suspect swung his rifle at a soldier. He was shot immediately. Another man resisted arrest, was wounded, and died the next day. Washington kept these incidents quiet because political tension was already high. Newspapers barely mentioned the clashes, but the violence forced many Klan members to go underground. Open Klan activity dropped sharply for a time. The calm didn't mean safety. It simply meant the violence was moving west. Alabama was one of the Klan's strongest bases. By 1870, the group was active in 32 counties. Violence rose sharply. Black schools were burned. Churches were attacked. In counties like Tuscaloosa, Sumter, and Choctaw, black voters were beaten on the roads before elections. When federal forces entered Alabama in late 1871, they walked into a region where the Klan was better organized than in many other states. In Tuscaloosa County, one patrol discovered a Klan gathering near a wooded clearing. Before soldiers could call for surrender, several men opened fire. The fight was short, but violent. 3 Klan members were captured. One kept reaching for his revolver, even after being ordered to stop, and soldiers shot him at close range. In counties like Octoba, Noxubee, and Londiz, Klan groups behaved like small militias. They rode in groups of 10 or 12. They carried rifles and shotguns. They attacked political meetings and chased black officials out of towns. Federal troops entered Mississippi later than in other states. By then, many Klan groups had scattered into rural areas or crossed into Alabama, but not all of them ran. Near Starkville in early 1872, soldiers found 4 Klan members hiding in a cabin. When the soldiers approached, one suspect fired through the window. The troops shot back immediately. 2 men were killed. The remaining 2 surrendered afterward. These confrontations showed a pattern repeated across the South. Once a Klan member used a weapon, soldiers treated him like a wartime opponent. And in those years, a wartime opponent could be shot during capture. The shootings of captured Klan members didn't happen because soldiers wanted revenge. They happened because the situation on the ground was deadly for everyone. Soldiers were young men, many in their 20s, who had survived the Civil War and didn't want to be killed in another conflict. Families in the South were suffering too. Black families lived in fear every night. White families who opposed the Klan were attacked as well. In 1871, a white Republican named James Martin in Alabama lost his home when the Klan burned it down. In Georgia, a black family of 7 was killed while trying to flee their home. This violence shaped the mindset of soldiers. They walked into burned homes. They saw bodies. They saw children traumatized. They heard stories of men disappearing at night and never being found. So when they encountered armed Klan members, they acted fast. By the end of 1872, the KKK was nearly destroyed, not by peaceful negotiation, but by overwhelming pressure. More than 2,000 suspects were arrested in the South. Hundreds fled to Texas, Florida, or even out of the country. Federal courts in South Carolina charged at least 220 men. In North Carolina, dozens accepted plea deals. In Alabama and Mississippi, many members abandoned the Klan entirely to avoid arrest. The shootings had a psychological impact. Word spread that resisting arrest could get you killed. Many Klan leaders told their followers to stay home, burn their robes, and keep quiet. By early 1873, President Grant declared that Klan activity had been crushed. Communities felt relief. Schools reopened. Black families voted in peace for the first time in years. Reconstruction seemed to have a real chance. But peace in America never lasted long in the 1800s. A new wave of violence was already forming because the shootings of captured Klan members created deep anger among Southern whites. Many saw it as federal tyranny. They believed the government was punishing them unfairly. This anger helped fuel new groups in the late 1870s, like the Red Shirts in South Carolina and the White League in Louisiana. These groups were more open, more political, and sometimes even more violent. But the Klan of the 1860s and the early 1870s did not recover. The original organization died almost completely. Its leaders scattered, its members hid. Its name faded for years. For many families who lived through this era, those years left scars. Black families carried memories of terror. White families carried memories of lost sons. Reconstruction was supposed to heal America, but instead it became another battlefield.